Welcome to the Eagle Eye Podcast, the number one show to bring you all things Club America in English, from tactical analysis
Pelota para la banda izquierda.
to player updates. We've got you covered on all the latest news on Las Águilas. Now, let's start the show. This is the Eagle Eye Podcast.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of the Eagle Eye Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking all things Leagues Cups ahead of America's game against St. Louis on Thursday. And joining me to help me do all of that, it is none other than returning guest, the Taco Man himself, Mr. Richard. How are you, my friend?
How's everybody doing, man? I never get tired of this Taco Man thing. People already start calling me it, so I like it. You started a trend on there. Pleasure to be here with you guys again, man.
No, of course. Thank you so much. And, we were excited to have you on last week and excited to have you back on as well, talking all things America, as you're going to help me try to defend the reins of Las Águilas, as we're going to be talking again, like I mentioned, Leagues Cup with a couple special guests. And without further ado, let me introduce those special guests. It is none other than Jake and Justin from The Ball, watching a St. Louis SC podcast. Gentlemen, welcome to the pod.
Great to be here. Thank you both for joining us. I'm glad we can do a little 2v2 here and get to know you all better and get to know the club, honestly, a little better. I think we're a little bit not as exposed, I think, to Liga MX as we should be here in the States, but we're really looking forward to Thursday. I mean, I think they said it last night in the Columbus game, but the continent's newest club against the continent's biggest club. So really, really excited.
Of course, and I guess that's the perfect way of painting it, right? Because it is the new versus the old, and kind of pit them against each other. It's going to be an interesting game, nonetheless. I mean, there's a lot to talk about. We'll get into the nitty gritty of it all. But first, I wanted to give you guys kind of just the space and the time to talk about yesterday's game. I know you guys had quite the dilemma, right? The rain, the delays, the goals and all that stuff. So talk to us a little bit about how St. Louis is coming into this one after yesterday's result.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday was kind of insane with the amount of rain. I think, the MLS does a pretty poor job of giving updates on when the game was going to start. And then it was like every 15 minutes, they kept pushing it back. It finally didn't start till local time, where the game was being played in Columbus till 11:15 p.m. So halftime was at midnight, which was just absurd. Not good for us looking ahead, coming back. Now the boys had to fly back this morning as opposed to last night and playing on Thursday. And yeah, I mean, the game itself was an interesting one, right? I think we ended up going down 2-0 relatively early. And then it was unfortunate with the free kick, a little miscommunication there with Celio Pompeo. He was on the inside of the front or on the near post, stepped up last minute and went to the wall for, I don't know what reason. And the wall wasn't far enough right, and they bent it around it. And then an unlucky PK, I believe that was in the 29th, ball popped up and hit Lucas Bartlett, our center back, in the arm. And then you go down 2-0 going into halftime. So it was a little bit of a rough start for the fellas.
Yeah, and you both probably fought a little bit too. They definitely rotated the team a little bit. I feel like that's probably in anticipation of rolling into Thursday with what in that time will be hopefully our healthiest available best 11 we could play. Because I really do think when you look at these two games, if there's a game we want to win more, it would definitely be Thursday against Club America. It's just going to be a big event. And that's the one that would make headlines. If we were to somehow pull that off, people would, gloss over a Columbus Crew win. But doing it on the stage of North America and taking down one of the best to ever play in this continent would be quite the story. So I think that's what coach is kind of indicating, is rotating the 11 a little bit last night to make sure guys are rested and available for Thursday.
And I was kind of just going to go there afterwards, because I was following your guys' kind of live updates. And when the starting 11 came out, you guys said, it was quite the rotating squad against a very decent Columbus Crew. And that made me think whether or not you guys were resting, specifically anticipating America. But it looks like that might just be the case. Richard, coming into this one, America, obviously they've flown out already. They literally left Mexico City today. It's going to be an interesting one, right? We know this group was, well, maybe at first when you saw this one, you thought, you get the newcomers, St. Louis, and then Columbus Crew. We faced them before. But honestly, when I look at it, a pretty tough group overall. I mean, you're talking, we're going up against the, first place in the Western Conference, and I think Columbus sits somewhere third in their Eastern. So it's not an easy one by any means necessary. And I think we talked about it last week when you were on. This is not to be taken lightly whatsoever.
100%. And, I think the biggest thing that gives me confidence was just the questions that they were asking Andre Jardine, our coach or our manager, of how he's approaching this game here. And he's saying, hey, you know what? The MLS has been on the rise. We're taking this competition serious. And because we are Club America, our objective is to win this whole thing. And so I really, really like the fact that he's already come out. He's already put on the obligation for the team itself that, hey, our goal is to win this whole thing. And to me, I think that answers my biggest question is, are we going to see a rotation to that starting 11? I think we will see a couple of players in there, but I think we are going to take it very seriously. And I think that, St. Louis is going to get a good 9 of our best players on there.
So obviously there isn't any big news as regards to squad updates. There's no transfer coming in. We thought potentially we might get a center back, maybe a left back by this time. Nothing said yet and done. So what we had at the end of Puebla is what we're going to have coming into Leagues Cup, at least for the first game. We'll see what happens for Columbus, but that's a quick turnaround. I highly doubt anything will happen. So as far as any big updates for America, our side is, as usual, the same old. But you spoke about expectations a little bit and what this means for America. Gentlemen, I want to ask you, realistically, coming into Leagues Cup, what is St. Louis's expectation? What is, at least from the fans' perspective, how far does this team need to go? And from a club perspective, how serious are they taking this competition?
It's a great question. And I feel like it would be different depending on who you asked and when you asked it. I think now with one game under our belts, having lost it in that fashion, I think the goal now is just to be as competitive as we possibly can on Thursday and make this, a good game and one, because I mean, after this, for us, I know you guys are just starting your Apertura. I mean, for us, this is now the run in after this tournament. So for us, I feel like going in, what I'm picking up, and this has not been quoted, so, bear with me here, but for what I'm picking up, this was, an interesting competition. We definitely want to make waves in the best way possible and advance if possible. Looking like it's going to be a tough order at this point now with our toughest game to play. The group, I absolutely agree, is one of the tougher groups, I think, in the competition. But looking at it now, I think it was a chance to hopefully get some guys back to fitness. We're missing some key players, giving them some time to recuperate and make sure they're available for the run-in while also trying to battle on this front as well. Given how it's going, I could see this being now a time for us to have some time off if we're not able to get the W on Thursday, because if we can't get that, that's it for us. So it'll be a 3-week rest before our final 11-game run-in. So that's kind of how I feel like it's been treated. Fans probably a little bit let down seeing what happened last night for sure, because I think that was the game that you definitely wanted to win and not hinge at all on Thursday. But at home, we've been a pretty strong home team this year so far. So I think that's what the coaches are kind of looking at too. Maybe we'll use that to our advantage and just hopefully create a shock.
Yeah, I would kind of just double down on that as what Jake said. I think at home, we're a completely different team. It's going to be one of those where, we didn't even have Roman Berkey, our starting goalie, or Tim Parker in the last game, who just got back from the All-Star break. They were on the All-Star team. So giving them a little bit of a rest, I do think that we're going to be coming home here. And I like Jake said, I'm not a big fan of having some time off for some guys to rest, but 3 weeks before we would play our next actual competition again is almost too long for me. So I think we really need to make a push to get out of this group. Maybe have like a week and a half, 2 weeks if we can make a little bit of a run, but definitely not going to be one to just roll over on Thursday.
Interesting. I think we kind of all coincide in that. Richard, we talked about it last week as well. It's important not to fall behind everyone else, right? Because obviously we're contending ourselves for the title and you're barely starting off your season, and to get another kind of 3 weeks break is kind of falling behind everyone else. You're expecting your Monterrey, your Tigres, your Chivas to get past their group stages. So if you're falling behind in that order, you're really just playing catch up, and that's nothing we need to do right now. So I think we're kind of on the same boat, gentlemen, that at least the teams want to progress out of it. Richard, you mentioned it. Being America, we have no other option but to say that we have to win, right? Anything less than that is considered a failure. So, I mean, is there anything more to add to that?
No, I think a lot of comes from it, and especially with now the information that came out that we are the richest club or the most expensive club within the continent, I think that just adds that extra pressure to it as well, right? And obviously, we've kind of seen the attention or the national attention that this League Cup has already received because of Leo Messi playing with Inter Miami, and just kind of how social media blew up with that. And so I think because of that, it adds that little extra pressure of like, hey, we're supposed to be more expensive than that team. We have to go out and win it, right? Anything less than the trophy on there would be a letdown for this team.
Absolutely, and you're starting to see a little bit of shift, right? Beforehand, a lot of America fans and a lot of Liga MX fans were looking at this competition as like, well, it's whatever. It's kind of like a preseason tournament. But slowly as the games progress and slowly as MLS starts kind of putting a foot forward and Liga MX side start looking a little bit less, fans are starting to think, well, no, we got to take this more serious. We kind of have to save face. And they're looking at the big boys, right? Especially us to come out and play and try to, make of something, a deep run into this competition. And we said it, the expectation has to be, you get to a final, you have to win it. Anything less is going to be looked down upon as, well, you really weren't able to get the job done.
100%. I think that's the rivalry between the United States and Mexico is always going to be there. And I think that's what we're starting to see now, right? Like, our teams are better than your teams. We saw it with like Mazatlan beating, Austin FC. Obviously Inter Miami defeating Cruz Azul was a big loss for MEX. So I think that competition and that rivalry is just starting to heat up. And so I think that's what's making this competition even greater.
I would agree. Just to piggyback off of that, just watching as a casual spectator some of these other fixtures, I've been really impressed with the product on the field. I mean, it's been really, really high-paced, action-filled games where, it's just the beginning of your guys' season, really, or you're the first part of your season, and it's kind of the end of ours. So I didn't know what to expect coming into it, but I've been really impressed. I just from a casual fan perspective, it's got to be entertaining to watch these games, and so I'm really hoping this installment goes well. I don't know how I feel about the mid-season for us, the beginning of season for you all in terms of the timing, but I like the idea of posing these two countries with great rising leagues of very, very talented pool of players against each other more consistently to see how that product kind of edges out. But I've been impressed so far.
It kind of feels like the script's been flipped when CONCACAF Champions League was in play, right? It was always Liga MX was kind of in the middle of their season. You guys were barely starting yours,
right?
So now it's like the script it's completely flipped over. So it's now we're getting a taste of our own medicine, if you can say that at least. But I mean, that's kind of where we're at in the sense, America needs to move forward, and because we are who we are. And that is the case. We need to go out there and we need to win. And also on top of that, we need to win looking good, Richard. I mean, you mentioned it yourself, right? I wrote about it in the fact that we are the most expensive squad in this competition, right? Inter Miami behind us, but we still have a big gap on them. And so a lot of eyes on America, and mostly eyes on Inter Miami right now, but trust me, there's going to be just as much on us come Thursday. So it's going to be an interesting one. But all right, gentlemen, let's talk a little bit more about these teams and how you guys are coming into this one. We mentioned that America barely started the season, right? The Apertura 2023 barely kicked off for us. And most teams already have 3 games under their belt. Richard, we have 2, right? Our second game got postponed due to terrible pitch conditions. So technically, we're kind of a little bit behind on this one. America is 1-1, so we've won 1, lost 1. We're trying to erase the ghost of that first game where we lost 2-1 to Juarez, and we're trying to emulate what we did against Puebla moving forward. So that's kind of where America sits. Gentlemen, talk to me more about St. Louis. I see that you guys are right now, like I mentioned, top of the Western Conference. You guys have played a total of 23 games, won 13, drawn only 2, and lost 8. I mean, it's ecstatic for you guys, I would imagine, right? Coming into this one, no one would have pegged you guys to be in the position that you guys are in. So that in itself is a great run. Talk to me more about this season so far.
Yeah, I mean, it's been pretty surreal for us. I think if you look at anybody in preseason, we may have been picked at best second to last in the entire MLS. So us to be where we're at now is great. Definitely not taken lightly. We know how easy it is to fall, and we've had a couple skids that we've been a little bit kind of scared about, but I mean, the team's been doing great. I would say, and Jake will agree with me here, our anchor is Roman Bürki in net. He's had 7 clean sheets already this year. The defense, everybody else in front of him, we've had a lot of rotation. I think we've had a couple big injuries. Joao Klaus, who's now been out for a couple months. Joaquin Nielsen, who has yet to play for us yet this year with a knee injury that he suffered and had an off-season surgery. And Jubala Blum had a couple of injuries and then also played for the South African national team for a couple games. So we see a lot of different changes in our formation and players as well. And still happy to be where we're at, to be honest. I think a lot of guys are stepping up. They're hungry, showing why they should make the starting lineup, and had a couple of pretty exciting guys from the start. What do you think, Jake?
No, I would agree definitely with all of that, and I'll try to add to it. I think had Messi not joined Inter Miami this year, I think St. Louis was the story of the season in the MLS. It was just a shock all around for them to be in this type of place at this stage in the season. I mean, they ripped off 5 wins to start the season, which was, record breaking just in terms of expansion teams. They're definitely one of the best expansion teams ever in their first season. They've set so many different records, obviously high goal scoring output, 43 through only, 23 games played, which is a pretty high clip for any MLS team, really. But knocking off some of the better ones as well, with Cincinnati being one of our biggest wins, and they're a pretty big juggernaut this year in the East. But yeah, I think for us, it's been, you guys talk about the expectations and being one of the most expensively assembled clubs in North America. We're probably one of the most inexpensively built clubs in America. I think our payroll is second or third least in the MLS right now, which is very, very crazy to know that we're doing this on a very, very shoestring budget. And I wouldn't even call it shoestring. We just have the sporting director that's got this vision, got great connections in Europe, and tries to unearth talent from, the most random places that you wouldn't even think of. We just made a signing from the Belgian second division from an Icelandic winger, and looking forward to having him here. He will not be eligible, obviously, for Leagues Cup, but just to make the most out of people that have been overlooked, underpaid, underappreciated, not given enough time or minutes, and they're earning it here. So you see a rotating cast of guys, especially with injuries, that are making it worth it for this team and really playing as part of the system. And the system's been one of the biggest winners, I think, of the team so far. Just high press, super intense, counter press as well. Just very aggressive style of play. Not the prettiest, I will say, that you ever seen, but one that gets the job done. And, hoping we can try to get some of those tactics back on track for Thursday as well. Cause I think you guys will definitely have the possession. We don't do much on the possession side. We just look to hit quick and look to make the opposition make mistakes and be very, very ruthless on those. So that's kind of been our story this season.
Interesting. We'll get to the tactics side of things, because it's going to be interesting how you guys line up and how we line up in comparison to, and how we contradict each other in that sense, because we are very vulnerable at the back, and we'll talk about that. Richard knows as well what I'm talking about in regards to that defensive mistakes that we're so prone to making. But it's interesting to see, like when Leagues Cup was first drawn out, obviously I think Americanista saw St. Louis. Who's St. Louis, right? You do your research more, newly formed team. You're thinking, well, they're probably going to be, walk in the park. And I think I've been trying to iterate that to a lot of people. Like, this is not going to be that easy of a kind of as a match that we all pretended it to be, because, form is important. And like you guys mentioned, you guys are knee deep into your guys' season. So for you guys to be sitting first means it's going to be a little difficult. And you guys talked about it too. Home form for you guys has been well. So it's not like we're going to be able to walk in there and just be like, oh yeah, whatever. This is going to be walk in the park. So I want to talk about predicting starting 11s in just a little bit, but I want to talk about the atmosphere that we might see a little bit in your guys' stadium. Talk to me a little bit more about you guys' supporter groups and what you guys think, kind of how many of your city fans will show up to that day in comparison to, because America, wherever we go, we tend to pull. So you guys saw it, and I don't know if you guys have the knowledge of it, but whenever we did go up against Philadelphia in the CONCACAF Champions League, right, it was said that, Philadelphia was going to put in as many people as they could. America ended up beating them in that battle in the stands. I'm just curious how well you guys feel confident that you guys will win that battle in the stands.
I feel pretty confident. I know you guys travel extremely well, and that's something they even mentioned in the game last night. Taylor Twellman kept talking about it on Thursday, but it's one of those things where I feel like, Jake, you correct me if I'm wrong here, I don't know if we've had a home game yet that we haven't sold out. We had one with a rain delay where not everybody came in at the end. It was one of those like a 2 or 3 hour break, but the atmosphere that hopefully that you guys are going to be able to see on TV as well. It's just been absolutely phenomenal. And the supporter section that we have is the steepest in the U.S. And so that's actually led by the people called the Louigans. And so they bring the drums, the chants, the flags, the smokes, and everything that they can do. And so in that section, you're not allowed to sit down. And that's the only spot in the whole stadium where you don't have a seat that you can sit in. But yet everybody in the lower bowl, which has been a big controversy in St. Louis, no one sits. They stay in the entirety of the game in the whole lower bowl. People up on the second tier do sit for the majority of it, but everybody in the whole bottom bowl is standing the entire game.
Yeah, very, very involved fans. This isn't casual watching for anyone. Usually people that are there are paying a pretty penny to be there just because the tickets have been such in high demand and really want to be there and be involved in the game. So yeah, that's, I think, a big element of why our home form has been so strong. But the atmosphere is crazy. I'm looking forward to you guys seeing that. But I am curious about what this turnout's going to look like, because I think there will be more eyes than just yours and ours there. I think if this crowd turns out to be pretty majority St. Louis City themed, I could see this being or becoming a spot where the national team might feature more often, just because there aren't many safe places out there anymore to get a pro-American crowd, just because you guys travel so well. So I am really hoping, selfishly, that we show out on Thursday and really get a good base of St. Louis fans there. But it is really impressive to see the traveling contingent that I feel like Club America is just one of those that just always travels well and is always deep wherever you go, which I would love to be like that at some point when we're going to play these away games. But obviously have a couple more years to establish our presence and get a couple cups underneath the belt to make that a thing for us. But I don't know. I'm looking forward to hearing your all's reactions, but it is a pretty fun atmosphere.
No doubt. And Richard, I think it's going to be interesting to see, right? The Porra de la America versus the Porra de City. It's going to be kind of a back and forth, I would imagine, most game, because the Porra never stops chanting, and I'm assuming you guys never stop as well. So it'll be interesting. Will we see any flares, any smoke come from the stands?
You won't see flares. I don't know if they let that in some of the stadiums in America, but you will see smoke. And so that's one thing that the Louigans do is they start over at a brewery that's close by, and they do almost a full lap around the stadium, and they bring smoke and waving the flags. And you'll see a ton of flags and nonstop chanting as well, but probably no flares.
I was wondering if we might see a tifo. I have not heard any confirmation on that, but I feel like this would be a game where it'd be a really fun one to do. But yeah, there's not going to be the flares. We do not have that here. We are not. I don't. Yeah, they would definitely shut that down. But that would be fantastic. I love seeing it on TV. It's incredible to watch. Just like this massive fireball in the fan section. It is cool. But I'm not expecting to see that. I think you expect your drum playing, your loud chants, very, very into it fans, a lot of buzz around the stadium. So that's probably more so what you'll experience on Thursday.
All right. Well, from America fans, you can definitely expect some smoke as well. Maybe a tifo. So
love it.
Like, we'll see what happens. Like I said, it's an interesting one. I love whenever America comes to the States, I try my best to go and cover the games for the podcast. And the thing that always captivates me is the fans. Really, it's truly what they produce out there that really ties the game all together. And so I know that they're going to bring it just as much as you guys are. So that's why it's going to be an interesting one in the stand. So if any one of you guys are going to be over there and any listener that's going to be present at the stadium, make sure you guys keep an eye on that. It's going to be a nice scene. That's for sure. But all right, let's get back into the topic of this game and what's going to happen on the pitch. Richard, let's talk specifically starting 11. You said that there might be some heavy rotation. Well, not some heavy rotation, some rotation by the manager, Jardine. And let me give you my predicting starting 11, and then you kind of piggyback off of that and see if maybe you change anything or if you agree with me. In goal, I'm going to go, and I know a lot of people might think Oscar could start, but I'm going Malagon, right? Starting goalkeeper, just came back from Gold Cups. He did nothing at the Gold Cup, right? Basically just held Ochoa's maletas. Yeah, basically. But coming in, I think you have to give Malagon some minutes. Get back into the rhythm of the things. So you give the starting 11 spot to him. On the right, Kevin Alvarez, of course, undoubtedly. And the center back partnership, I think this is where it might change a little bit. Israel Reyes and Sebas Cáceres. And then on the left-hand side, I think we see Luis Fuentes. In the midfield, Richard Fidalgo. On the right-hand side, Sendejas, I don't think starts. I think Leo Suarez, we mentioned it. He has to keep his spot. You give it to Leo. On the left-hand side, I don't know why, but I think Layun's going to play there again. I think you're going to give Layun the go-ahead. And then up top, you're going to have Diego Valdez and Quiñones. I think Henry gets benched for this one a little bit. I don't know what you think.
Yeah. For the most part, I think we agree on there. I think for my end, I don't see him giving minutes to the players that just returned from the national team immediately. I think he's going to kind of ease them back in because I think some of them had a little bit of vacation after they won and they partied it up once Mexico won that Gold Cup, you know. So at the goal, I am going to go ahead and give it out to Oscar Jimenez. I believe that's typically what you've seen from America beforehand. Whenever we do have multiple competitions, you try to rotate goalies on there, specifically when the goalies are at a high level. And I think Oscar Jimenez does a really good job. I agree that we are going to see Kevin Alvarez back right. In the middle, same thing, just because Israel Reyes is coming back from the Mexico national team. I'm actually going to give it out to Nestor Araujo and Sebastián Casares. I know that there's also rumors of Nestor Araujo possibly going back to Europe, specifically with AEK Grank from Greece. And I think this is a great job for him to kind of display, you know, what his form is like, should they want to go ahead and pull the trigger and send him back to Europe. I do believe that Layun is actually going to be on the left, not Fuentes. I'm also going to go ahead and say that he's going to go ahead and respect what Jonathan Dos Santos did and go ahead and play him in the mid. Not just because he had a great game, but I think that Jonathan Dos Santos, having played in the MLS, could provide some, you know, good ideas of how the game is played and, you know, how teams in the MLS play a little bit more than other players, which is also the reason I think they're going to go ahead and start Brian Rodriguez on the left-hand side because he also played for LAFC, kind of knows the MLS style a little bit more. Leo Suarez on the opposite side, and then Diego Valdez and Quiñones up top. I do think Henry Martin is going to be coming in more towards the second half. But that's my lineup. I think Brian Rodriguez and Jonathan Dos Santos are really going to be in there just because of their familiarity with having played MLS teams beforehand.
I like the idea, and I like exactly what you mentioned. A little bit different, way different than mine. And I mean, Chris right here mentioned it, right? His starting 11's a little bit similar to mine with the back four. And the goalkeeper the same. Jonathan Dos Santos keeps his spot, and then he actually has Quiñones and Henry playing together, which would be an interesting one. I know we all want to see it already. I don't think it's going to happen just yet.
Not yet.
But we'll see what the case is. All right, gentlemen, you guys heard our starting 11. Let's hear what you guys potentially might put out on Thursday.
All right, I'll try to get us started. So I think you will see the return of Roman Bürki in between in the net for us. Coming off the All-Star break, gave him a game off, which is his first I guess, really game off since our last Cup fixture back a couple months ago. So he'll be back. I would imagine we'll probably return to most of our starting 11 that featured in the Inter Miami win, if I had to guess, which will be a 4-2-3-1, 4-2-1-2. So what I'm thinking is Kyle Hebert on the left back, which is he's very much a defensive minded left back, does not get forward very much. You'll see our center back pairing probably return to Tim Parker, who is our vice captain, Bürki being our captain and coming off the All-Star break as well, next to Josh Yarrow, who was our captain on our 2 team last year. A high draft pick for Philadelphia a couple years ago, giving him a shot here, and he's been really impressive. Akil Watts, who's a little bit more of a dynamic right back to round out the back four for us. Going into the midfield, I think we'll go with our strongest midfield we have available to us, which will probably feature Blum and Leuven, I would imagine, in some sort of double pivot, with Blum probably taking more of the defensive duties, Leuven probably a little bit more of the 8 kind of box-to-box. Aziel Jackson probably in the middle of the attacking midfield kind of trio with this guy's been incredible for us. He's 22 years old, been absolutely dynamic and one of our most creative players, a big revelation this season for us. On the wings, that's where I could see some changes. Maybe Jared Stroud on the left, maybe Rasmus Alm or Celio Pompeo on the right. I'm going to have to go with up top. I might go with Nico Gioacchini to give us a little bit more going forward. Adeniran didn't really do it for us last night against the Crew. If I had my pick, it'd be great to see Joao Klaus come back in. He is on the roster for Leagues Cup. He has not made the bench or the team yet, so I think it's still too early for him. But, man, what a joy that would be to see him return that way. But that'd be my prediction, I think, for us lining up.
Yeah, I'm Completely in agreement with Jake there. I would say you're definitely going to see some AZ. If he doesn't start, he'd definitely get on. Same with Celio Pompeo. I will go with Nico up top as well, just knowing that Sam and Dinneran just got 61 minutes last night, and Nico came in from there. But I agree, back line for sure. You're going to see Blum and Leuven work your way up. I don't know if we'll see Alm as much just because he got the full 90, I think, last night. But you'll definitely probably see, Indiana Vasilev, I think, possibly on the right as well.
All right. Well, I think it's established. We're going to get the strongest possible St. Louis squad. And my question to you now is, how is it that this team is going to go out there and play? You guys alluded to it a little bit, right? You guys are going to try to maybe soak up a little bit of the pressure and get us on the counter. Specifically, do you think that's going to be the case? Or at one point, are you guys going to try to take the game to us?
Yeah, I wish that was in our repertoire. I do not think it's there yet for us to have to be able to play that way. I do think we will play within ourselves, especially knowing the quality of the competition coming in. We got to keep this tight very early on, especially, and make sure we keep you all, bogged down a little bit, and especially in the first half. But I would expect us to press high up the pitch when we can, especially your defense, if that is where you all especially see some of the frailties in the team. And when we are having any sort of possession up top and we do lose or concede possession, I would expect us to jump right back on the ball and try to win that back very quickly. And then for us, it's going to be a matter of, in those limited opportunities we're able to generate from that type of style of play, do we finish them? And secondly, can we generate, set piece opportunities as well? I think we've been the best team in the MLS when it comes to set piece goals this season, corners, free kicks, what have you. So, it's going to take some level of composure as well from Club America to make sure that we don't you don't give us those opportunities, because we've been tending to put them away a lot recently. So those are probably the two most likely sources of goals I would expect for us. But I do expect us to probably soak up a ton of pressure and waves of attack as well.
Yeah, and I would say with Jake as well, I think if you but I think when we're pressing high, the one part that we get vulnerable on is quick counterattacks. And I think that's something that we could see from you guys. And then hopefully that's where we get Roman Berkey back and playing a little bit of a sweeper keeper for any of the through balls that go a little bit too long. But that's one of those things for us. We've talked about it since the beginning, that if we lose the ball in your half and it's about to be a quick counter, you got to end it, take the foul, take the early yellow, let it be a restart with a pass. Don't let us get all the way back down to Roman having to make a big save.
Interesting, Richard. There's a couple of things that I'm taking away from this, and whether or not you agree with me, we'll see. But anyone who follows Club America, or who's been following Club America for a long time, knows that one of our biggest Achilles heels has been set pieces, right? Defending them has not been our favorite thing to do in years past. Will this be different under Jardine? I don't know. It's too soon to tell, but it looks like we're still susceptible to those kind of attacks. So you guys getting yourselves a set piece is going to be crucial. I know on your guys' end, it's going to maybe put us a little bit on nerve. But going forward, Richard, I think this is a game where you use and abuse Quiñones' speed, right? If that is the case, and quick, explosive, dynamic counterattacks is what can do St. Louis, then I think you just see kind of a repeat of what we did a little bit against Puebla, where we kind of just checked the ball forward and said, Quiñones, run for it. And it's going to be an interesting one, whether or not we're capable. That's not to say that Jardinet's not going to come out and play his style of football either.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think what you're going to kind of see at the very beginning is America dominating possession. I think, both Jake and Justin have mentioned it. I think that's one of the weekends of Austin City. And so you kind of saw it in the Columbus Crew match as well. I think Columbus Crew ended up with like 68% possession towards the end of the game. So because Jardine does like to have that attacking format, you're going to see a lot of that. You're going to see a lot of the wings coming up. I expect Kelvin Alvarez to kind of be, jumping or running up and down that field and trying to press up as another winger as much as that he can. And then I completely agree. Just abuse Quiñones' speed and physicality and chuck out those balls to try to get those counterattacks because, that is one of their weak spots. And because you already saw what he's explosive enough with Puebla, even though he didn't capitalize on that specific play. But I think this is where he redeems himself, and you're gonna see a bunch of chuck balls, a lot of just thrown out, kind of go get him. And I really think that's where, Richard Sanchez being in the midfield can be that player that kind of just gives them those long balls. So I'm very excited for this game, honestly. I think there's so many different little stories around it that is going to make it such an intense game. And I think the fact that, St. Louis did end up losing their last game, they're kind of go all in on this one. And that also puts the pressure on America, of coming in and having to win the game and looking dominant. So I'm looking forward to this matchup, and I can't wait. Can't wait for Thursday.
And there's a lot more writing on this than and many of us anticipated, because America winning this game automatically secures them a spot into the next round. Doesn't give them first place, obviously, but it gives them a pretty good indication that, look, we're into the next round, and I think it gives Columbus the pass as well. So a lot to be played for here. And Jake and Justin, you guys mentioned it, right? You guys don't want to have that 3-week period. I don't think any team who is smart enough wants to be in that position. So I think you guys are going to field your best starting 11, and you guys are going to try to, win this game in any way possible.
Yeah, and I mean, not only having that 3-week break, but having a 3-week break after losing 2 games in a row. That's not something that we want to do, especially when we're at home. So I think it's going to be a really exciting game, fellas. And we already talked about it. I think both fan bases are going to really show out. It's going to be a hot one here in St. Louis, probably around, so I think it's a high of 98 that day. I know the game's at 9 p.m., so that will help. But yeah, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, I would love to do some gentleman's agreement with you all to maybe, let us have this one and you guys go and beat the crap out of Columbus, and we both go on. But actually, that wouldn't be a guarantee either, because we lost to Columbus. So I think it comes down to goal differential there. I'm not even sure what the tiebreaker is, but it should be interesting. I think it's just one of those nights we wouldn't have dreamed of having a couple years ago, but to welcome you all to our front door and our city is just amazing, and we're so excited just to be a part of it. So hoping for a great game. I think it should be a good one.
Absolutely, and let's hope that is the case. I would imagine that the tiebreaker would be somehow penalties, since League Cup loves penalties.
So I know. So there is no such thing as a tie. So if we do tie the game, then it goes straight to PKs. I did look up the actual tiebreaker for like group points. So if 2 teams are tied with the same number of points at the end of the group stage, the results between the clubs in question will be the first tiebreaker. But I mean, if we beat you and then you beat Columbus, there's a round robin there, so we'd all be tied at 3 points. Just saying hypotheticals here. It'd be followed by goal differential and then most goals scored.
Interesting. All right. Well, we'll see whether or not we go around that roundabout. But I hope everyone's excited for this one. This game is going to be at 7 p.m. Pacific, 9 Central, 10 Eastern. This game is going to be live, obviously, on Apple TV. And if you guys want a different viewing way, this is also going to be on Through the N as well, for those of you who love listening to Paco Villa and the rest of the crew. Richard, I know that it's a fun one whenever you get to listen to the Mexican commentators finally commentating on an America game. But all right, gentlemen, I guess the only thing left to talk about is scoreline predictions. So let me hear what you guys think is going to happen at the end of the night on Thursday against each other's teams. Now, you guys are probably one of the most scoring goals in the MLS, right? You guys are a very scoring team. Richard, America has been doing it for quite a while now, right? We're known for scoring goals. So does this game allude to a possibility of having a goal fest?
I think so. I think it's just kind of set up to go that way. I think the way and the style that Jardine is trying to implement on our team is we're going to go out there and we're going to score. But we also know that our defense is our weak side. And because St. Louis has been so good in being able to capitalize when they do and score as many as they do, I think that's what we're going to kind of end up seeing is a high-scoring affair. My final prediction for this game, I'm going to go with the nice 4-3. I think is that we're going to finish it off. And I'm going to go
with the goal fest.
I told you it's going to be 4-3, and I'm going to call it. We're going to score that 4th goal towards like the 88th minute. That's my prediction there.
Oh, God, my heart.
Yeah. It's going to be a heartbreaker. It's going to be a heartbreaker.
I'm on a similar trajectory as you. I'm going to go obviously I'm not going to pick for us to lose. I'm going to go 3-2. And I think it's going to be one of those where I think we get 2 in the first half, and then you get 1 back, and then we take 1 back, and then you get it back. It's just gonna be a back and forth affair. I would not be surprised if we give 1 up late in the 80s. So I'm with you on that one as well. I really pray that we don't, because it's making my heart stop, but sure.
All right. Goal fest from Justin as well. 3-2. Jake, where are you sitting?
Yeah, no, and I cannot for the life of me predict a loss for us, because we can't have that, obviously, but I feel like the goal fest that I've expected every single time this season haven't turned out to be so. And I even expected last night to be more of a goal best because Columbus is one of the better producers in the MLS for goal output. But I'm going to go 2-1 City on this, and I think it's going to be an extremely nervy game. I think it's going to require Berkey to stand on his head to keep Club America limited to just one. So I could see it getting open, though, also, and just becoming a goal fest. 4-3, and if we lost 4-3 and it was that entertaining a game, I think I'd be happy with that. That would be incredible watching pleasure, but I'm hoping for the W.
All right, going 2-1 for St. Louis. I'm going to go as conservative as I can, and I'm just going to go and say 1-0 for America, even though there's no way that we can possibly get a clean sheet, Richard. You and I both know this, but somehow in my heart, I want to believe that it's doable. I don't believe that's going to be the actual case, but for the sake of my prediction, I'm going 1-0. That way we'll have a little bit of a different outtake. And of course, it's going to have to be Quiñones who scores the goal for me. That's just how the way it is, right? The man everyone's been talking about so far, I think is going to be on the score sheet. Funny enough, Ricardo saying America is going 4-2. St. Louis will get some MLS fake penalty calls. Chris saying no comfort. America needs to show what they did against Puebla and a score 3-1. Leo Suarez, Quiñones, and Henry. And then AP Jr. says, if America plays fast-paced, controlling the tempo, passing the ball, we can win. And if so, my prediction would be 3-1 America. One thing's for sure, gentlemen, you guys are scoring on Thursday night is what a lot of Americanistas are saying. So looks like you guys will at least have a goal.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. I hope so. Hey, it's going to be a fun one regardless. We're extremely excited.
I mean, is there anything else you guys want to add on? I mean, I think we pretty much talked about everything here.
No, just want to thank you guys both very much for having us on. We love doing this and doing a little crossover. So, I mean, knock on wood, maybe if we can both get out of here, like Jake said, and we can meet later on in the tournament, we can do this again.
That would be a joy.
Of course.
It would be a joy.
It'd be awesome. It'd be awesome. No, thank you guys for accepting the invitation. And I think this is the beauty about this competition, being able to cross paths and being able to cross worlds, right? When we typically wouldn't probably ever run into each other. So I think that's the beauty of it. And so we're thankful for the fact that you guys came on, and as well as you, Richard, thank you for coming on and talking all things Leagues Cup with us. Well, with that said, I guess that's pretty much it. Make sure you guys stay tuned on Thursday. And where can they find you guys on Twitter?
Yeah, you can find us at BallWatchingSTL. We do twice weekly episodes for basically every game we have a week, and we have multiple games a week. It ends up being multiple more episodes. So we do a recap and a preview for every single game we play this season, including these Leagues Cup games as well. So catch us there on Twitter and Instagram at BallWatchingSTL, also on YouTube as well if you want to see us. For sure. So if you guys by any chance become a St. Louis fan, you guys know exactly which experts to go to. Right.
So
hit us up.
Exactly. All righty then, gentlemen. Thank you so much. You guys have a wonderful night. To everyone out there, thank you so much for coming on to the live show. We'll be back next week to talk all things Club America. And as always, good night.
Ladies and gentlemen, this was another production of the Eagle Eye Podcast, the #1 source for all things Club America in English. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Eagle Eye Podcast and get all the latest news and coverage. And subscribe to our podcast wherever